What's poppin', everyone? Hopefully, y'all are having a fantastic day today. Appreciate those of y'all tuning in. If you haven't already, go give me a follow on my Twitter page at textbook_sports, my Spotify, YouTube channel with the at ThatsTextbookSports. Can't wait to get in today's episode. Going to be talking about the Pac-12, or are they packing it in? And going to be talking about what Donovan Edwards said in a recent interview that ruffled some feathers. There's also something else he said, though, that really piqued my interest. Going to be talking about Travis Hunter. Can he win the Heisman this year? And much more. Can't wait to get into this episode. Appreciate those of y'all tuning in once again. But of course, as y'all know, that's textbook. So what is it that Donovan Edwards said that piqued my interest? Well, he goes on to talk about his pass-catching ability separating him from other top running backs. And then he goes on to say, "This is the perfect time for myself, specifically because the NFL wants running backs who can catch. I see all the stuff right now with how the running backs aren't getting paid. And the reason why this piques my interest is because if college running backs are seeing how some of the top running backs in the league aren't getting paid their value, will we see the modern day running back become this receiver/running back threat?" And I think so, because the NFL is such a positionless sport it's becoming now. I mean, like with Micah Parsons, he's a edge rusher/linebacker. You can use him in a multitude of ways. Same, you go with Deebo Samuel. He can be as a receiving option, also a running back. Same thing goes for Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara. And again, on the defensive side of the ball, talking about Derwin James, he can be a safety, in the box, slot corner, those type of things. So I think we're seeing the NFL transition into being positionless. Obviously, the modern day quarterback now, he has to scramble outside the pocket, use their legs, where 10 years ago, there was no such thing as that. That wasn't common practice or commonplace in the NFL. And I'm a believer in that, if these high school running backs are learning how to become a receiving threat, and these college running backs are learning how to become a receiving threat at that young of an age to get taught that, I think we can definitely see the modern day running back in the NFL become this multi-positional player. Those are my 2 cents on the modern day NFL running back. Let me know what you think the modern day running back will be in 5 years. When talking about his potential, Donovan Edwards ruffled some feathers. He says, quote, "I will go down as one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game." Then he adds, "I'll be up there with the Walter Payton and Barry Sanders. I believe I will revolutionize the game and the position at running back for how I run my routes, how I play as a running back and a receiver." In 2022, Donovan Edwards rushed for 991 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, and a 7.1 average. On the receiving end, he hauled in 18 catches for 200 yards and 2 tutties. On film, Donovan Edwards is a home run hitting running back. He accelerates through the hole like lightning in a bottle. Nifty footwork, patiently sets up his blocks, great hands, and route running. If you set him up on a linebacker, he's going to win 10 times out of 10. Even sometimes a safety or a slot corner, he'll gain his. Onto the not so great, he seems more like a one-cut running back, but at times it takes him a while to round that corner. He'll have to work on that. Ball security issues. He's got inconsistent vision and footwork. The first guy will get him at times, and he doesn't have ideal contact balance. Now, onto the inconsistent vision and footwork, I think that's a product of him being behind Blake Corum, and he's not getting as many touches as he needs. But Donovan Edwards, as the season progresses, as the game progresses, he gets better and better, and that's what you love to see out of a superstar workhorse running back. As we all know, in the Ohio State game, 7-minute mark, he hits that long touchdown, gives Michigan a significant lead. About 4 minutes later, he goes in with another long rushing touchdown, basically ices the game. So he gets better as he goes on. Got a couple stats here. He had 2 touchdown runs in the fourth versus OSU, as I mentioned. Had 300-plus rushing yards in the months November and December. So that shows you just as the season gets on, his production rises significantly. When he was the lead back, he was more consistent. He ran with more confidence, and he showed a little finesse. Now, as it pertains to Edwards being the best running back in college football, I don't know. I think he has the most potential out of all the running backs, out of Blake Corum and Braylon Allen. But I'll have to say Braylon Allen, he seems like a Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry clone. He's a great running back. So I don't know about him being the best running back in college football, but as for potential, I think I'll have to give him the nod for sure. From the Pac-12 to now the Pac-4 to maybe and even possibly packing it in. Cal, Stanford, Oregon State, and Washington State are the only schools to remain in the Pac-12 for now. The hidden details within this conference realignment is simple. It's about money and TV revenues. The Pac-12, as it stands right now, has a deal with Apple TV, a paid subscription network. Schools like the Big Ten, SEC, and ACC have these huge millions of dollars TV deals with CBS, Fox, and ESPN. Meanwhile, the Pac-12 is with Apple TV, a paid subscription network, and a lot of schools that remain in the Pac-12 are unhappy with it. And it's just a complete mismanagement by the Pac-12 commissioner. USC, UCLA, they were a home run hire by the Big Ten. They were the first schools to leave. Washington, Oregon, they jumped in. Arizona, Colorado, Arizona State, another school that I can't remember as of right now, they decided to leave. So, I mean, those schools all left. Meanwhile, those 4 schools that are in the Pac-12 now are kind of just looking around, watching as their peers leave, and then watching to see what the commissioner does, and he's not present at the moment. So, just a complete mismanagement, and who knows if there will be a Pac-12. It's just insane. Even I found this fact that the Big 12, they added 4 new teams, and still each of those teams, or each team in the conference, will receive $32 million. That's just mind-blowing and absurd that they can add 4 new teams and each still gets $32 million. And it speaks volumes as to how big these TV revenue deals are. And also with a lot of these programs joining conferences like the ACC, the Big Ten, the SEC, what happens with the college football playoff? How's that going to pan out? You're basically going to have these 3 super conferences. Well, it'll be 3 for as we know right now. Who knows what happens with the ACC? There's rumors that they could be that next program that gets cut like the Pac-12 did. Programs like Miami, Florida State, Clemson, they could look elsewhere. So it's going to be interesting to see how the committee decides how they're going to divvy it up. Is it going to be like an NFL model where we have divisions and 2 big conferences, 3? Who knows? That'll be entertaining to keep an eye on. And the beauty of it all for us as fans is we get to sit back and watch chaos happen. And with, like, for instance, the SEC, they're getting Texas and Oklahoma. Big Ten is getting USC and UCLA. So let's go with Alabama and Texas. Just recently, Texas played Alabama really hard. If Quinn Ewers doesn't go down, who knows how that game unfolds? So it'll be fun. Whereas a couple years ago, a lot of teams and the fans were complaining that these Power 5 schools were getting to get easy wins against lower level schools for 2, maybe 3 weeks. Whereas right now, that really won't be the case. You're going to be playing a lot tougher competition week in and week out. And then you'll have those Power 5 schools like the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Michigans to go up against as well. So it'll be interesting to watch it unfold. This year, Colorado wide receiver / defensive back Travis Hunter Jr. has set the bar high for himself and expects a Heisman campaign in 2023. And this year, I think he meets those expectations, but it'll depend how much he plays offensively. Like, he can have a phenomenal defensive year, and it happens for a lot of defensive players where they have phenomenal defensive years, but sometimes they don't even get invited to New York or they fall short because defense doesn't give you that wow factor. It doesn't give audiences that, oohs and ahs. So it'll depend how he plays offensively. And there's some rumors that he may not even come off the field. If he's not coming off the field and he's producing like the way I think he can, I think for sure he's getting an invite to New York and he may win the thing. He's going to have a lot of competition with Marvin Harrison Jr., Caleb Williams, Brock Bowers is a candidate, Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum, though I think they'll get invites as well. So he's going to have some competition, but he has the possibility to do something we might not have ever seen, and that's become an elite two-way player. And we've seen two-way players before. As a matter of fact, Deion Sanders is a two-way player, and it turns out Deion Sanders is his coach at Colorado, and Deion knows a thing or two about playing on the offensive side, the defensive side. So that'll be great for him just to grow as a player and get to pick Deion's brain, find tips and tricks, whatever. And Travis reminds me a lot of Deion Sanders. I remember watching Travis's high school film. I think he was a sophomore at the time when 247 initially released their recruiting rankings. And what impressed me was how he excelled at the little details that you see from pros when it comes to reading QB's eyes and setting up the defensive back as a wide receiver. So you combine all of that he has with his talent and physical ability. I mean, he makes some absolutely special plays. And on offense, I think you can use him as a slot receiver and an outside just because he has such a good release package. He knows how to set the DBs up. He knows how to sell certain routes. And he's got his QB from last year. So you combine all of this and the sky's the limit for him. If he doesn't come off the field and produces the way I know he can, I think for sure he wins the Heisman. But the Heisman is ultimately a team success award as well. Just like the MVP, usually the best player on the best team gets that award. In my opinion, I don't think that should be the case. I think if you're by far one of the best players in the country, you should definitely win it. Only exception I have to giving it to a player who's on the winning team is for a quarterback. I think if you're a quarterback, your team has to be winning games. You can't be 8-4. You can't be 6-6. You've got to be 10-2, 11-1, 12-0 to win that type of award. But in Travis Hunter's case, he is one of the best two-way players I've ever seen. And we haven't seen very many two-way players. I've mentioned Deion Sanders, but I think Travis Hunter has this insane potential. He's one of the rarest players I've ever scouted, evaluated. And Colorado, they did win one game last year. I think this year, if they go 8-4, and Travis Hunter is phenomenal across the board, he's clear-cut the best player in college football, you have to give him that award. I think he should win it. He'll get my vote. Colorado is going to have a little bit easier of a season. I don't think it'll be this 1 year, massive change where they're winning 9 games. But I do think there's a possibility that they can win 8 games. The old saying is that you can never have too much of anything. But if you're in the NFL and you're the San Francisco 49ers, it turns out that you can have too many qualifying quarterbacks. Right now on the roster, they have Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold. We all expect it to be Brock Purdy. We don't know. We hear in training camp things aren't going so well. He's not having the type of production. And I get that because he's just coming off of an elbow surgery. 8 months off of that? So it'll take some time for him. I think given the team success that they had, Brock Purdy should be there just because, the first 2 quarterbacks get hurt. They're having to rely on Mr. Irrelevant to save them. They win games. He does what he needs to. He operates within the boundaries of that Shanahan offense. Doesn't do too much. Does just what they need. Took him to an NFC championship game. But then if you look at the business side of it, the 49ers gave up significant value to trade up and get Trey Lance so he could be the guy. And the writing on you really can't say Trey Lance is done in the league or that he's a bust, and you can't say he's the starter because he hasn't played that many games. We still don't know who he is, what's he going to be in this league. So it's interesting. And then there's Sam Darnold, who knows how he'll pan out. The Shanahan system is very QB friendly, so I do expect any quarterback that they choose to have a really good year and do what they need to take that team to the Super Bowl. But it'll be interesting. Let me know your guys' thoughts on it. Tell me, is it going to be Brock Purdy? Type BP in the chat. Tap TL in the chat if it's going to be Trey Lance. And SD for Sam Darnold. Let me know what you think. As I'm recording this episode, NBA insider Shams Charania tweets the opening day schedule for the NBA season, and it starts off with the Western Conference Finals rematch between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. And for the first time since he left, we get to see Steph, Clay, and Dre versus KD. That's going to be fun to watch. For the first time in what felt like forever, and heck, it's practically been forever, we get to see the Golden State core go up against Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns' new acquisitions. I'm not going to call them a super team, but they are definitely a stacked roster. And, of course, going to be getting seeing Chris Paul go up against his old team. That's going to be fun to watch. I don't know who wins that one. Well, actually, I think I'll go with Phoenix just because they have more depth and they have so many playmakers on there. It's going to be interesting to see because a lot of them are ball dominant. How is that going to work well? That'll be fun to watch. Of course, Chris Paul and Golden State. And moving on to the rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. I think the Lakers take that one, and I think my preseason favorite to win the NBA title this year has to be the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, they, after the trade deadline from last year, completely different team. You got Jared Vanderbilt. He was a nice acquisition for them. And they retained some key guys in Austin Reeves. And they add Cam Reddish. I just think this Lakers team is just built for postseason success. They have so many wing defenders. They've got Anthony Davis to guard the paint. Of course, we all know with Anthony Davis, he does get injured a lot. He's off the floor often. He's gonna have to be healthy, of course. But I just think that they have one of the most complete rosters in the NBA. There's been mountains upon mountains of hype for Caleb Williams this year. And Broncos' new head coach, Sean Payton, has stated that Caleb Williams is such a special player that there's going to be some teams who would just outright tank for him, that the NFL might want to have to put a lottery system. And I think that's very true. Caleb Williams, he has elite arm talent. He's been compared to Patrick Mahomes. I don't like to give athletes that type of comparison, although I think there's similarities, just because their games are vastly different. But Caleb Williams can make any throw from anywhere. He's a backyard football type of quarterback where he excels when the play breaks down, and it kind of looks like that's kind of sometimes. I know he doesn't look for it, but it looks like that's what he's looking for, is to make that special backyard throw. Such arm talent. Gonna have to fix up on some things mechanic wise, just because the way I think he does throw is all shoulder. And when you're using all shoulder, that's going to produce a lot of wear and tear on your shoulder. So, which team wins the Caleb Williams sweepstakes? And for me, it comes down to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams. When I look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have a great defensive line, solid defense, a poor offensive line. And when you have a poor offensive line, that usually doesn't bode well for your quarterback at all. And in terms of their quarterback, they practically don't have any as of right now. And as for the Los Angeles Rams, I know they too have a poor offensive line, and they've got an old Matthew Stafford, and that's not a recipe for success, especially since Stafford isn't that mobile of a guy, and he's hardly mobile at all. So he's going to be taking a lot of hits, and their only viable pass weapon right now is Cooper Kupp, and he's a great wide receiver, but you need a little bit more. They have Cam Akers. We'll see how he does a year removed from that lower leg injury. So those are my two teams, Rams, Buccaneers. Let me know in the chat, in the comment section, who you think those teams are going to be to win that Caleb Williams sweepstakes. If you're a team that has some questions about the quarterback, do you want your team to take this 1 year to go get Caleb Williams? Before I wrap up this show, I've got a question for my listeners. What is the greatest sports performance you've witnessed? Was it Ali over Foreman, Tiger Woods' performance in the 97 Masters, or Kobe dropping 81? If it wasn't any of those, let me know in the comment section. For me, I'm going to go with Nyheim Hines, 2 kickoffs returned for a touchdown, and how much that meant to the NFL community and the world, especially since what happened with Damar Hamlin the week before, the emotions that locker room, that team is going through, and for the opening kickoff to return it for a touchdown, just such a special moment for sports, the sports world, and the world in general. To see that, it was just like something from a movie. And then on his second kickoff, he returns it 101 yards. It gives them the lead. And the emotions that must have just been going through and that we're going through, and to that significance to me, and then the team winning the game for the second one to put them over the top. And you look at the final score, I believe it was 35-23 over New England. So that to me will always hold credence, memories, and importance in my heart and in my days of watching sports. Thank y'all for listening to the That's Textbook Sports podcast. Be sure to go check out my other podcasts on my YouTube channel and Spotify account at That's Textbook Sports. And be sure to give me a follow on Twitter at textbook_sports. Thank you. And until next time,